Welcome back to the deep dive. I have a question for you to start things off today.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you look around at the world right now, really look at it, do you see a society that has, moved past religion?
The big one.
Because that's the standard narrative, isn't it? We live in the 21st century. We've got the James Webb telescope. We've got mRNA vaccines. We have ChatGPT.
We are rational, secular, scientific people. That's the story we tell ourselves for sure.
We've supposedly outgrown all the old myths.
That is certainly the story. We like to think history is just this straight line. We started in the mud with superstition and ghosts, and we've just marched steadily upward into the clean, bright light of science and reason.
But the stack of research we're diving into today, and honestly, this might be the thickest stack we've had in a while, it suggests that line isn't straight at all.
Not even close.
It's a circle. The core premise we are unpacking today is that our most cutting-edge ideas, the biggest blockbuster movies we watch, and the wildest promises coming out of Silicon Valley, they aren't new at all.
No, they're wearing a new costume.
They are actually ancient theology wearing a very expensive high-tech costume.
Exactly. We haven't abandoned the religious impulse. We've just re-articulated it. We've just swapped out the labels.
Swapped out the labels? How so?
Well, think about it. We traded God for extraterrestrials. We traded angels for AI. And we traded the resurrection of the body for
uploading our minds to the cloud.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But the underlying story, the fundamental structure of the myth, it is thousands of years old.
This is what the scholar Michael Heiser, whose work really forms the backbone of our deep dive today, calls evangelical paganism.
Or post-Christian Christianity. It's a fascinating term.
It's a bit of a mind bender. And we are going to explore how a specific ancient worldview called Gnosticism has, it's effectively become the operating system for modern pop culture.
And this isn't just about, spotting Easter eggs in movies for fun. Mm-hmm. This is about understanding a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves in the universe.
Right.
The argument here, the one laid out in the sources, is that society hasn't stopped looking for salvation. We just stopped looking up to a creator.
And started looking out.
Out to the stars. Or into our own code.
So our mission today is to decode this. We're going to look at Star Wars, The Matrix, the Marvel Universe, and the writings of futurists like Ray Kurzweil. We're going to see if we can prove this thesis, that modern society is just recycling these old Gnostic myths to fill the God-shaped hole left by the retreat of traditional religion.
And I'll warn you now, once you see this pattern, what we might call the Gnostic code, you literally cannot unsee it.
Oh, I'm ready.
It changes how you watch Netflix, it changes how you read the news, and it really changes how you understand this cultural obsession with finding your truth.
I'm ready to have my reality shattered a little bit. But before we get to the aliens and the cyborgs, we have to lay the foundation.
We have to.
We keep using this word, Gnosticism. I think for most people that's just a buzzword from a Dan Brown novel or maybe a dusty history book. But what are we actually talking about?
It is the root of the entire tree.
Yeah.
Gnosticism wasn't a single church, with a mailing address and a pope. It was a diverse, sprawling movement in the first few centuries of the Common Era, the first, second, third centuries. And it competed fiercely with what we now call Orthodox Christianity.
So it was a rival version of Christianity in a way?
In a way, yes. But despite all the variety in the different Gnostic groups, they all shared a specific operating system for reality. And to understand it, you have to grasp a concept called monism.
Monism. Okay, let's unpack that. It sounds like a disease, but I'm assuming it's philosophy.
No, it's not a medical condition. Think mono, meaning one. Monism is the belief that all is one.
All is one.
Now, this is crucial because it's the exact opposite of the traditional Judeo-Christian worldview. In the biblical view, you have God the creator and you have the creation.
They're distinct.
Utterly distinct. God is the potter. We are the clay. The clay is not the potter. The painting is not the painter. There's a fundamental ontological separation.
Right. I am not God. God is outside of me. He's distinct, holy, separate. That's the core idea.
Precisely. But in monism, or Gnosticism, that distinction is an illusion. There is no separation. None. God is the stuff of the universe. The universe is God. You are God. I am God. We are all just fragmented sparks of the same divine whole pretending to be separate.
Okay, so if all is one, and if I am essentially a piece of God, why is my back hurting?
Exactly.
Why is the world full of wars and cancer and, taxes If we are divine, why is our reality so messy and painful?
That is the million-dollar question. That is the problem of evil. And the Gnostic answer to that question is the plot twist that drives everything we're going to talk about today.
And their answer is?
Their answer is, we are royalty with amnesia.
Yeah.
We are divine beings trapped in a prison we don't even recognize as a prison.
A prison. So this world, this reality is a prison.
Yes. And to understand how we got here, we have to look at the Gnostic cosmology, their origin story. And I have to say, reading through Heiser's analysis on this, it reads like a sci-fi screenplay. It's incredibly dramatic.
Okay, set the stage for us. In the Gnostic beginning, what happens?
Okay, so try to visualize the ultimate reality, the true God. In Gnosticism, this isn't a person you have a relationship with, not a father in heaven.
No personality.
No. This is the Bythos, the deep. It's pure abstract light, unknowable, perfect energy. This true God lives in a realm of pure spirit called the pleroma, which translates to the fullness.
So it's like this high-frequency dimension of just pure light and perfection.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Now, within this fullness, the true God emanates offspring. They are called eons.
Eons.
Think of them as beings of light or maybe divine attributes of God that have taken on their own form. There's a whole hierarchy of them, like a divine royal court. But there's one specific eon we need to focus on. Her name is Sophia.
Sophia, which is the Greek word for wisdom.
Right. But in this myth, Sophia acts, well, unwisely. She's the one who disrupts the harmony of the pleroma.
What does she do?
She decides she wants to create something on her own. Usually in this divine realm, creation is a harmonious act between partners, a syzygy, and it's approved by the true God.
Yeah.
But Sophia goes rogue.
She wants autonomy. She wants to do her own thing.
She wants to be a creator in her own right. But because she does this independently, outside of the divine order, the creation is. It's flawed. It's an unauthorized copy. She births this deformed, twisted being.
A kind of monster.
A kind of monster, yeah. And she is so ashamed of it, so horrified by what she's made, that she casts it out of the pleroma, down into the darkness below.
And this monster, let me guess, becomes the villain of the story.
This is the demiurge. It means the maker or the craftsman. And this is the part where Gnosticism completely flips the script on the Bible.
Okay.
In Gnostic theology, this demiurge, this flawed, monstrous being, is the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh.
Whoa, hold on. So the God who says, let there be light, the God who creates Adam and Eve, Gnosticism says that's not the true God, that's the monster.
Correct. They view the creator of the physical world as a blind, arrogant, and sometimes sociopathic lesser deity.
How can he be blind?
He wakes up alone in the darkness. He can't see the pleroma or the true God above him because Sophia put a veil there. So he looks around, sees nothing but what he's about to make, and he assumes he is the only thing that exists.
So when he says in the Old Testament, I am God and there is no other.
The Gnostics look at that and they say, see, he's delusional. He literally doesn't know about the real God upstairs.
That is a massive inversion. So the physical world, this table, the trees, the stars, our bodies, this isn't a masterpiece created by a loving father.
No.
It's a botched experiment created by a lunatic.
It's a prison. That's the key takeaway here. In Gnosticism, matter is inherently evil, or at least it's a lower corrupt substance. Spirit is good. The material world is a cage designed to trap divine beings.
So where do we fit in? If the world is a cage, what are we?
We are the divine sparks. So Sophia looks down from the pleroma and sees this nightmare she started. The demiurge has created these physical bodies, what the Gnostics essentially call meat sacks.
Charming.
Right. But they are lifeless puppets. So in a secret act of redemption, or perhaps rebellion, Sophia manages to smuggle a divine spark of the true God's light into some of these bodies, into humanity.
So we are double agents. We don't belong here.
We are eons trapped in biology. We are pure spirit locked in a corrupt physical body in a world created by a corrupt God. And that God, the demiurge, wants to keep us ignorant. He wants us to think we are just dirt. He doesn't want us to ever find out that we are actually royalty from the pleroma.
This changes the Garden of Eden story completely. In the Bible, God tells Adam, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. In the traditional view, that's a protective command. It's about obedience and trust.
But in the Gnostic view, that is the prison warden trying to keep the inmates stupid.
Don't get the knowledge.
Don't eat the fruit. Don't look behind the curtain, because if they get the knowledge, they might realize they don't belong here. They might realize the bars on the cage are an illusion.
So then, the serpent, the snake in the garden.
The serpent is the hero.
That is wild.
In almost all Gnostic readings of Genesis, the serpent is the good guy. He's the messenger from the true God, or maybe Sophia herself, coming to liberate humanity. The serpent comes and says, did God really say that? Don't listen to him. Eat. Your eyes will be opened. You will be as gods.
You will be as gods. That's the promise.
That is the core promise. The serpent isn't tempting them to sin. The serpent is offering gnosis.
Gnosis, the Greek word for knowledge.
Right. Not just any knowledge. Not intellectual knowledge like knowing the capital of Nebraska. It's a special, intuitive, mystical knowledge. The knowledge of who you really are. A self-realization.
An awakening.
An awakening. So salvation in this system isn't about forgiveness of sins. No, because sin isn't the problem. You didn't do anything morally wrong to get here. You were just captured. The problem is ignorance. You're asleep in the prison.
So you don't need a priest to forgive you of your moral failings?
You need a messenger to wake you up. You need someone to smuggle you the key. You need the red pill.
The red pill. You just bridged us perfectly to the modern era, because when you lay it out like that, a secret reality, a prison world, a malevolent creator, and a hero trying to wake people up, that is the plot of, well, almost every major sci-fi movie of the last 40 years.
This is the skeleton key. It's the template. Once you have this true God versus demiurge and spirit versus body dynamic in your head, the modern myth of the extraterrestrial starts to look very, very different.
Let's go there. Section 2, the myth of the extraterrestrial. Because on the surface, aliens seem like a strictly scientific concept, right? We used to think Earth was unique, then we got telescopes, we saw billions of stars, and we just did the math.
The Drake equation, things like that.
Right. But our sources argue it's not just math. It's theology. It's a new religion.
Right. The debate about other worlds, it's not new. It goes way back to the Greek philosophers in the 4th century BC. But it really, really heats up with the rise of modern science. And here is where we see the mission of this deep dive coming into focus. We're replacing the spiritual with the biological.
Walk us through that history. How do we get from Greek philosophy to the truth is out there on a poster?
Well, you have some early interesting figures. And Nicholas of Cusa in the 15th century, he was a cardinal in the Catholic Church, actually, but he wrote about the possibility of other worlds. And this is the key. He suggested that their inhabitants might be nobler than humans.
Nobler, so better than us, more advanced, closer to God, maybe.
Yes. Superior. There's this immediate assumption of superiority. Then fast forward to the 19th century, the big one. Darwin publishes On the Origin of Species. This is the absolute turning point.
Because the logic becomes inescapable.
The logic becomes, if life evolved here through a random natural process over billions of years, it must have happened elsewhere.
It's just a numbers game at that point. With trillions of planets, it would be weirder if it didn't happen elsewhere.
Exactly. But there is a hidden assumption baked into that logic. A theological assumption, really.
Huh?
If life evolved elsewhere, and the universe is 13.8 billion years old, then other civilizations likely started millions or even billions of years before us.
They'd be the older siblings in the cosmic family.
And in the evolutionary worldview, older means more advanced. And this is where the leap of faith comes in. We don't just assume they are more advanced technologically, they have better starships.
We assume they're more advanced morally?
Yes. We assume that if they survive their own technological adolescence, their own Cold War, their own climate crises, they must have figured it out. They must have solved war. They must have solved poverty. They must be benevolent. They must be wise.
That is a huge assumption. I mean, we're more advanced than the Vikings, but I don't know if we're morally superior. We just have much more efficient ways of killing people.
That is the logical flaw. But the myth requires them to be better. We project our hopes and our desires for a savior onto them. Look at the context of the 20th century. We invent the atomic bomb. We have the Cold War. We have the threat of total nuclear annihilation. We have climate change. We feel like toddlers playing with loaded guns.
We know we can't save ourselves from ourselves.
Exactly. We know we are too primitive to handle our own power. So we look to the sky, we look for the space brothers. The logic is, help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. We want the advanced, benevolent beings to come down, smack the gun out of our hand and say, children, let us show you the way.
It fills that God-shaped hole, doesn't it?
It does, perfectly.
Yeah.
In a secular world, people still crave a cosmic perspective. They still want to feel like they aren't alone. They want to know that someone wiser is watching over them.
A higher power.
A higher power, just a biological one. James Herrick, one of the authors referenced in our source material, he argues that science fiction has provided a new canon of transcendent stories to replace the Bible. It's the new sacred text for a scientific age.
It's a replacement theology. Instead of angels, we have aliens. Instead of the second coming, we have first contact.
And instead of humbling ourselves before God, we hope to evolve to become like the aliens. It is the same Gnostic hope escaping our primitive, messy humanity to become beings of pure light or pure intellect, just dressed up in a silver spacesuit.
And this becomes undeniable when you look at the movies, which brings us to section 3, Hollywood as the pulpit. I mean, I love movies, but I never realized how much preaching was happening while I was eating my popcorn.
It is often subtle, but sometimes it is so blatant it's shocking when you see it. Let's start with a classic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Spielberg, a masterpiece.
An absolute classic. But think about the imagery. The aliens are mysterious, they're benevolent, they're godlike. They communicate through light and sound. But there is a specific detail our source points out that I had completely missed all these years.
What is it?
There's a scene at the end at Devil's Tower where the humans are preparing to board the mothership, the chosen ones, effectively, who get to leave this messy Earth.
Right, the new Noah's Ark.
And a Christian minister is there in the crowd of scientists and military officials.
Yeah, he's in the background, right? Kind of observing.
He is reading from the Bible, specifically Psalm 91, verse 11. And he says, "He shall give his angels charge over thee."
Whoa.
As the humans are walking up the ramp into the alien ship.
So the movie is explicitly telling you, these aliens, these are the angels from your Bible.
Exactly. It equates the two directly. The humans are being raptured up into the heavens in a chariot of light. Spielberg is bridging the gap, telling the audience that the old religious language was just a primitive way of describing this new biological reality.
Yeah.
The angels were just misunderstood extraterrestrials all along.
And then there's E.T. I mean, E.T. is cute, he likes Reese's Pieces, but the allegory there is, it's really heavy when you look at it.
It is a pretty straightforward Christ allegory. I mean, let's just map it out. E.T. comes from the heavens. He has healing powers. Remember the glowing finger healing the cut?
Yeah, and the flower.
And the flower? He has a telepathic spiritual connection with his main disciple, Elliot.
When E.T. gets sick, Elliot gets sick. They are one.
Exactly. Then E.T. dies. The government, the Romans, if you will,
yeah,
they take the body and put it in a cold, sterile tomb. Elliot mourns.
And then
E.T. is resurrected. His heart glows red. And finally, what does he do? He sends back to the heavens in a ship of light.
And his final words, "I'll be right here," pointing to Elliot's forehead.
The kingdom of God is within you. It's the indwelling Holy Spirit. It taught an entire generation that salvation, or at least comfort and healing and wonder, it comes from this benevolent, gentle being from above.
What about something more action-oriented, like Superman in Man of Steel?
Oh, Superman has always been a Jesus figure.
Yeah.
It's built into his DNA. He's the only son sent by a father, Jor-El, from the heavens Krypton down to Earth to save humanity.
Right, that's the basic setup.
But in the movie Man of Steel, the visual cues were so over the top, they were almost comical.
Yeah.
There was a shot where Superman is deciding what to do, and he goes to a church and sits in front of a stained glass window of Jesus in Gethsemane.
Not subtle.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And then there's the big one. There is a shot where Superman has to destroy the world engine, and he exits his ship, floating in space, and his arms are outstretched perfectly in a crucifixion pose as he falls to Earth.
Subtlety is dead.
It was not subtle. But let's go even deeper into the specific Gnostic themes. Because Gnosticism isn't just about the savior, it's about the bad creator, the flawed demiurge. For that, we had to look at Prometheus, the prequel to Alien.
That movie was confusing, but it was visually stunning and full of these huge ideas.
It's pure ancient astronaut theory, which is basically a sci-fi version of the Gnostic creation myth. The premise is that these pale, giant, muscular aliens called the Engineers seeded DNA on Earth. They created us.
They are our gods.
They are biological gods. But here's the Gnostic twist. The humans travel across the galaxy to find their makers, hoping for answers, hoping for a warm hug, and the Engineers just want to kill them. They are horrified and disgusted by their creation.
Right, it's the demiurge, the creator who hates his creation.
Exactly. But here's the nugget from the source material that just blew my mind. Ridley Scott, the director, revealed in an interview that the original script had a very specific explanation for why the Engineers wanted to destroy Earth. It got cut, but it was the original intent.
Oh, I read this in the notes. This is just crazy.
The idea was that the Engineers had sent an emissary to Earth about 2,000 years ago. An emissary to try and correct humanity's violent ways, to teach us and get us back on the right path.
And who is the emissary?
It was Jesus. The concept in the original script was that Jesus was an engineer, an alien.
No way.
Yes. And because humanity tortured and crucified him, the Engineers decided, that's it. This experiment is a failure. They're a lost cause. wipe them out.
That is, wow. So it takes the central event of Christianity, the crucifixion, and completely reinterprets it through a biological extraterrestrial lens. Jesus wasn't God incarnate. He was just an alien Peace Corps volunteer that we murdered.
It naturalizes the divine, it keeps the story, but swaps the theology for biology. It says, see, your old myths were true, but they were just misunderstood science.
And then, of course, there is the big one. We can't talk about Gnosticism in film without talking about The Matrix.
The Matrix is the ultimate Gnostic movie. It is a perfect allegory. It checks every single box of the Gnostic myth.
Okay, walk us through it, box by box.
Okay, box number 1. The world you see is an illusion. It's a computer simulation designed to keep you docile. That's the false material world of the demiurge.
Tech.
Box 2. The agents. Agent Smith. These are the archons, the Gnostic term for the rulers or demonic servants of the demiurge who police the prison and try to keep humanity asleep and obedient.
Check. The enforcers.
Box 3. Neo is the Messiah, the Christ figure, who must wake up to his true divine nature. He has to gain gnosis. Morpheus is the John the Baptist figure who guides him.
And his ultimate goal.
Box 4. The goal is to escape the simulation, to escape the prison of the flesh and the world, to free your mind.
And notice the nature of his power. There is no spoon.
Right. It's pure Gnosticism. He realized that the material world isn't fundamentally real, and therefore he can bend its rules. He realizes he is divine. He is the one. The reason that movie resonates so deeply with people is because it taps into that feeling we all have that something is wrong with the world, that we're trapped in a system.
It empowers the individual. You are the one. You have the secret knowledge.
And it's not just these big, obvious examples. It's everywhere. Look at the Marvel Universe, Thor, Odin, the Asgardians. They explicitly say in the movies, we aren't gods, we're just aliens from Asgard with advanced science.
Your magic is just science you don't understand yet. That's the mantra.
That is the ultimate mantra of this whole worldview. It naturalizes the supernatural. It tells the listener, you can have your angels, your demons, your gods, and your messiahs. But don't worry, they all fit neatly within the periodic table. They are just advanced biology from another planet.
Which leads us perfectly into section 4. Because if the so-called gods are just advanced biological beings, and if we are special divine sparks who just need to unlock our potential, then why can't we become them?
Exactly. Why wait for the aliens to save us? Why not save ourselves? This is where we pivot from fiction to futurism. This is transhumanism.
So define transhumanism for us in this context, because it sounds like something straight out of one of these movies.
It basically is. Transhumanism is the belief that humanity, as we currently know it, is in a transitional phase. We are not the finished product. We are Homo sapiens version 1.0.
And let's be honest, version 1.0 is pretty buggy.
It's very buggy. It gets cancer, it gets Alzheimer's, it has back pain, it's driven by irrational emotions, and its biggest design flaw is that it dies after about 80 years. It's planned obsolescence.
So the goal of transhumanism is to upgrade the hardware.
The goal is to use technology, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence to evolve beyond our biological limitations, to become post-biological or post-human.
And the big name here, the one cited in the sources, is Ray Kurzweil.
A brilliant man, a director of engineering at Google. He predicts that we're approaching the singularity.
The singularity, explain that.
The singularity is the moment when machine intelligence surpasses human intelligence. At that point, Kurzweil argues, the curve of technological progress will go vertical. And our best hope for survival is not to compete with the AI, but to merge with it.
Merging with machines, uploading our consciousness to a computer.
The goal is immortality. If you can upload your mind to the cloud, if you can digitize your consciousness, your body can die, but you can live forever. If you can replace your failing organs with self-repairing nanobots, you never have to die. You can live forever in a digital paradise of your own making.
And our source argues this is just Gnosticism with technology.
Look at the parallels. They're one-to-one. Gnosticism views the physical body as a meat sack, a flaw, a prison for the spirit.
And transhumanism views the body as obsolete hardware.
Exactly. Both want to escape the limitations and suffering of biological existence. Both seek salvation, which they define as immortality and omniscience, not through divine grace.
But through knowledge.
Through knowledge, through science and engineering. It is salvation by our own effort. And the source material makes a chilling connection back to Genesis chapter 3.
The serpent in the garden.
What was the original promise of the serpent? Eat this fruit, gain this knowledge, and you shall be as gods.
You shall be as gods.
The source argues that transhumanism is the human attempt to finally, technologically, fulfill that promise. It's the serpent's promise. packaged as a futurist TED Talk.
We shall be as gods. That is literally the sales pitch. We will have the knowledge of good and evil through AI. We will have eternal life through digital uploading, and we will do it all ourselves. Thank you very much.
There is a documentary mentioned in the sources called Technocalypse. It's a great title. It discusses this convergence of the apocalyptic imagination, our ancient desire for an end to this world and the birth of a new one with modern technology. We are trying to engineer the New Jerusalem. We're trying to build heaven, but we are building it with silicon and code and biotech.
It's fascinating because it takes things like synthetic biology, which is literally writing DNA from scratch to create new life forms, or nanotechnology, and it frames them as fundamentally religious acts. We aren't just making better medicine. We are rewriting the source code of life. We are taking the pen out of the creator's hand and saying, I'll take it from here.
And that is the absolute definition of the Gnostic rebellion. Remember Sophia? The eon of wisdom. What was her mistake? She wanted to create on her own, outside the divine order.
Transhumanists want to create life on their own.
They want to become the new demiurge. Hopefully a better one, in their eyes. They look at the demiurge of natural selection and say, you did a terrible job, we can do better.
But there's a paradox there, isn't there? If you are building a new reality, a virtual reality, to escape this one, aren't you just building a new, more sophisticated prison?
That is the profound risk. If the Gnostics are right that the created world is fundamentally a trap, then creating a virtual world to escape it is just creating a trap within a trap.
Before we get to the final implications of that, there's one more area where this religious technology shows up, and it was the most surprising part of the research for me. Section 5, the religious nature of the space program.
This is a piece of history that gets completely scrubbed from the popular narrative. We tend to think of NASA and the Russian space program as purely cold, hard science. It was about the Cold War, politics, engineering.
Beating the Soviets.
Right. But the roots, especially for the key pioneers, are deeply mystical and religious.
Let's start with the Russians, the cosmists. I had never heard of this.
Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. If you go to a space museum in Russia, he is the icon. He's the father of rocketry. He worked out the basic equations for spaceflight in the late 19th century, but he wasn't just doing math because it was a cool engineering problem.
He had a different motivation.
He was a follower of a strange Russian philosophy called Cosmism. And at the heart of Cosmism was a belief that the ultimate goal of science was to conquer death.
Okay, that sounds like transhumanism.
It was an early version of it, but they took it a step further. Tsiolkovsky and the cosmists believed that through future science, we would eventually be able to resurrect the dead.
Wait, resurrect the dead? Literally?
Literally reassemble all of our ancestors, particle by particle, and he realized we would have a population problem.
A bit of an understatement.
So he concluded that space travel was a moral imperative. We needed to develop rockets to find new planets to house all these resurrected people. So for him, the rocket wasn't just a vehicle for exploration, it was a vehicle for resurrection. It was a profoundly religious project to defeat humanity's final enemy, death.
That is not what they taught me in a high school physics class. So what about the American side? Wernher von Braun.
The man who built the Saturn V rockets that took us to the moon. A very complicated figure, obviously, given his Nazi past developing the V2 rocket. But later in life in America, he became a devout, outspoken Christian.
And he didn't see a conflict between his faith and his science.
Quite the opposite. He saw them as two sides of the same coin. He wrote essays where he viewed space travel as spreading the gospel and fulfilling a cosmic destiny for mankind. He saw rockets as the machinery of God's will, allowing humanity to explore the heavens he created.
And then there is the incredible story about Apollo 11. I had heard this vaguely before, but the details in the source material are striking.
Buzz Aldrin, second man on the moon. He was a Presbyterian elder. Picture the scene. The Eagle has landed. They are on the surface of the moon, running through the final checklist before Armstrong opens the hatch. And Aldrin gets on the radio to Mission Control and says, "I'd like to take this opportunity to ask every person listening in, whoever and wherever they may be, to pause for a moment and contemplate the events of the past few hours and to give thanks in his or her own way."
And then he goes silent.
He goes silent. And in the cockpit of the lunar module, he takes out a small plastic container with a tiny piece of bread and a small vial of wine that his church had given him.
A communion kit.
A communion kit. He pours the wine into a small silver chalice. And in the 1/6 the gravity of the moon, he says the wine curled slowly and gracefully up the side of the cup. He reads from the book of John, "I am the vine, you are the branches." And he takes communion.
So the very first food and drink consumed by a human being on another world was a Christian sacrament.
The body and blood of Christ. It's an incredibly powerful image. It symbolizes this blending of the technological triumph with the spiritual hunger. Even as we escape the earth, we carry our most ancient rituals with us.
And there's something in the notes about Project Adam.
Yes. This is another one of those little historical details that says so much. The original name proposed for the Mercury space program, the very first program to put an American man in orbit, was Project Adam.
Project Adam, you can't make this up. It's explicitly suggesting a new genesis, a new beginning for humanity among the stars.
It reinforces the entire argument our source makes. The idea that science and religion are mortal enemies is a myth. It's a story we started telling in the late 19th century. For most of history, and for many of these pioneers, they were doing God's work.
Yeah.
They were trying to restore Adam's original divinity, his mandate to have dominion over creation, through engineering and exploration.
It's like we are trying to reverse the fall. We got kicked out of the garden, so we're building a rocket to try and break back in.
Or to find a new garden on Mars.
So let's bring this all together for the outro. This has been a whirlwind tour. We've covered ancient Gnosticism, aliens, Hollywood blockbusters, transhumanism, and the space race. When you step back and look at the synthesis, what is the single coherent story you see?
I see a consistent story that humanity has been telling itself for millennia. The names change, the costumes change, but the plot remains remarkably stable.
And that plot is?
The plot is, we are special divine beings. We are trapped in a flawed, broken, painful world. We are victims of a bad situation that is not fundamentally our fault. And the way out is not through humility or submission to an external God, but through acquiring secret knowledge and technological power.
It's the ultimate life hack, salvation through information.
It is. We have replaced creeds with movies. We've replaced angels with aliens. We've replaced the resurrection of the body with uploading our brains to the cloud. But the underlying message is always the same. You can save yourself.
And that explains why this narrative is so incredibly powerful and appealing. It tells people what they desperately want to hear. It validates their feeling that they are more than just a body. And it gives them a cool, futuristic, sci-fi path to transcendence that doesn't require going to church or following a bunch of old, inconvenient moral rules.
It also explains the modern cultural obsession with looking within for truth. If you are a Gnostic, the truth isn't out there in a holy book or a tradition. The divine spark is inside you. You just have to find it. You are the little God waiting to be awakened. It makes the self the ultimate authority.
So, to the listener, the next time you watch a movie where the hero realizes the world is a lie and discovers their secret, hidden powers.
That's Gnosticism.
The next time you read about a tech billionaire who wants to put a chip in your brain to make you smarter and help you live forever.
That's Gnosticism. It is the ancient serpent whispering, in a new technological dialect, you shall be as gods.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought. We always try to leave you with something to chew on after the deep dive is over.
And here is the question I am left with after going through all this material. If the Gnostic worldview is right, in a sense, and the ultimate goal is to escape the biological body and become pure intelligence, pure data, and we are using AI and the internet to build exactly that reality.
Where does that road actually lead?
Are we building our own deliverance? Are we engineering our own ascension to the pleroma? Or by merging with machines and creating a totalizing digital world that we can never leave, are we actually just building a new, more perfect digital version of the Demiurge's cage?
Wow, that's a heavy thought.
If the material world is a prison, a digital world from which there is no escape might be a solitary confinement cell.
And if the serpent promised we would be as gods, is transhumanism the fulfillment of that promise, or is it the ultimate deception? Is it the key to the cage, or is it just the bait in a much more sophisticated trap?
That is the question.
On that cheery note, thank you for diving deep with us today. Keep your eyes open, watch those movies with your Gnostic glasses on, and we will see you next time.
Stay curious.